and type in JPR Live. Folks can see it. I know some folks are watching from across the country. We sent the link out. You can watch it afterwards as well, so I just wanted to make people aware of that. So my name is Rob Galan. I am the treasurer for the Londonderry Athletic and Field Association. Also was good friends with Mark for many years. So today, the LAFA board is honored to be revealing a new landmark that will be here at LAFA in remembrance of Mark and everything he stood for. We will get to that at the end, but before we do that, we wanted to say a few words about Mark. So again, I knew Mark as a colleague, as a board member, and also as a friend. You know, I got to say, honestly, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. One of the things I remembered about him was how soft-spoken he was. He was such a strong guy, both physically and just as a person. But yet he was always soft-spoken, and I'd have people come up to me and say, "I know that Mark guy, but he doesn't say as much. What is he doing?" And I'm like, "This guy is doing so much behind the scenes. You have no idea." And just to give folks a little perspective, so as the secretary of LAFA, he did the minutes for us, but he also did a ton of behind the scenes things with LAFA. So just a couple of examples. We have a parade and family day each year. Mark would coordinate the picture taking, and we're talking about 600 kids who would come down, and we would have games each hour here. He would have to coordinate, making sure each team got their pictures, they got to their game, then back, then went over, and then he coordinated getting those pictures out. And he also, as smart as he was, negotiated a little commission for LAFA. So as the pictures came in, we got a little cut. So that was great of him. He also did a lot of stuff on the website. He and I worked very closely together. He set up all of the registrations. He would call me with some, frustrations he was having with the website, but he was, so persistent to make sure everything worked online. Did the registrations, and then just a lot of administrative stuff behind the scenes with the email addresses not working, people not being able to get to their accounts, things like that. But one of the things that's most memorable to me that I don't think anyone knew about, and he asked me to keep it quiet, which I did, was he and I would get emails from individuals who were unable to pay the tuition here. A lot of times it was single moms. A lot of times it was just people who had been let go, just people down on their luck. And traditionally those requests would come to me as a treasurer, and we would have kind of a fund to cover people who had some difficulty. And Mark would send me it and say, Mrs. Jones, is single mom or whatever the case may be. And I would say to Mark, you know what, we can cover it, LAFA. Every time he sent that to me, he said, "No, Rob, I want to pay for it," and out of his own pocket. And I said, "Mark, we have money, we can cover this." And he said, "No." He said, "I went through a time in my life where I was down on my luck. I had some challenges in my life, and I remember what it's like, not to have money, to not know where the next paycheck's coming from, to not know where I'm going to sleep." And he said, "I want to take care of this." And I kept not arguing with him, but saying, you don't need to do that. He said, "I want to do it." And the best thing about him wanting to do that was he said, "And I don't want you to tell anyone. I don't want you to tell the board. It'll be something. I definitely don't want you to tell the people that I'm helping." To me, it's one thing. Some people are generous people, but they want to make sure they're recognized. And Mark was just not like that at all. He insisted on not being. So I did break the promise, and I had told Kelly, shortly after he passed, about what he had done. That he didn't break the bank. They still had money. But I did want her to know that, and I did feel it was important that the community knew what a great guy he was, and that he just kind of wanted to, as usual, kind of soft-spoken, under the radar. So I think it's important to know that about Mark. And then also, for those who don't know, he was a member of Special Forces, veteran. He was a member of the American Legion down the hill there, and just did a tremendous amount of great work. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tim Dodge, who is the former president of LAFA, to say a few words, and then he'll pass it back to me. Please be patient with Tim's mobility issues. And just a quick thing, Tim, despite his mobility issues, has just been a rock star. He came to get the tarp at my house, gets out of the car. Janine and I were like, "Stop, let us get the tarp." He's like, get away from me, I can do it myself. And he walks over, gets the tarp, and speaks to the character of what Tim has done. So thanks to Tim, and I'll let him say a few words.
Good morning. I don't like these things. So I had the pleasure getting to know Mark as when I was the president here, and I think for me it was just an honor to be able to call him a friend. We started out as colleagues. I'd never met him when he came on the board, and it just, after a very short amount of time, you could tell he was going to be somebody that I really enjoyed spending time with, and really had the honor to call him a friend. He was the kind of guy that you'd meet him here, and it was either picture day or whatever it might have been. He'd walk up, and the first thing he would say is not, "Hey, I need this, I need this." He'd always ask, "Hey, how's everything going?" Especially when I started having my issues. But he'd always ask about the family, how are your kids doing, what's going on at college. It was never about business. And we get down here and we always start thinking, well, I got to do this, I got to do that. He always took the time to, big giant smile on his face, that big Cheshire cat smile that he always had, that greeted you with it. But he'd always want to know what's going on with you. It was never just about LAFA or anything along those lines. It was always about, what's going on. He would love to talk about, obviously, his own family. We'd spend 10, 15 minutes just talking family before he got into other stuff, which I felt like that just showed the kind of guy, he really is in everything, because he just truly, truly cared about everybody in his life, and I think it shows today with everybody here. But from a standpoint of, Rob already mentioned the generosity and everything, and it's just a small thing that we can do that hopefully, this will always live down here at LAFA. But Mark was the kind of guy that you always wanted to sit down and have a conversation with, versus, worrying about, what's going on in Hale or whatever it might be. It would, exactly. But it was always somebody, like you said, you just wanted to sit down and have a conversation. After board meetings, he'd always spend 10, 15 minutes after just talking to you and just making sure that he understood what was going on in your life. And it just showed his generosity and how much of an incredible human being he was. So, like I said, it's just an honor to have called him a friend, and I'm happy to be a small part of this dedication today. And hopefully, something that the family can enjoy and will live on forever.
Thanks, Tim. So just one last comment I wanted to make before we get to the unveiling. I do want to stress what Tim said about Mark and how he always asked about family. He always did that, and I have to admit, I'm down here at LAFA all the time and running around doing things, and he would ask me, and I wouldn't say I blew him off, but I probably didn't sit and respond about that as well, because I was always running around. So I regret that, and the reason I bring that up is I encourage you to think about family and friends and really why we're all here, and just take a moment and think about that. So anyway, that just was meaningful to me. I actually spoke to a couple of people, Kevin Crowley and a couple other folks, who made the exact same comment to me about him always asking about how your family was doing, because he meant it. Some people say it and they just sort of move on, but Mark truly meant it, and he was a great guy. So with that, Tim, I'm going to ask you to hobble back over here. Okay, I'll read it. So we're unveiling today a landmark that we're going to leave at LAFA, and people can come over and see it in a bit. And we're going to call this the Bondra Bench. Mark was all about, as we've been saying, talking to people, talking to strangers, asking how you were doing, listening so much. And I think that's, again, an important word to think about, is listening to other people, listening to friends, family, etc. So it's called the Bondra Bench, and I'm going to read the inscription. So it says, "In memory of Mark Bondra for his countless contributions and overwhelming generosity to the LAFA family." And so this bench will be placed up here in the General Perkins area. We're working with some folks to figure out the best place. We are going to put it into the LAFA database website, so when people schedule a meeting or something, they see, Hale Field or Forest Field, they'll be able to see the Bondra Bench. So we hope that teams maybe can have a team meeting at the Bondra Bench, or maybe even, a one-on-one coach with a player, or just two folks getting together. So we encourage you to spread the word about the Bondra Bench. Use the Bondra Bench not just to sit with someone that you know, but talk to a stranger, as Mark would do. Take a page out of his book. So that's the unveiling. We encourage you after the ceremony to come up and sit on it. So before we conclude, I did want to thank everybody for coming down. As you know, this has been rescheduled twice. I didn't want to schedule it again. It was going to be on Hale Field, but figured it made more sense to have it here covered. I do want to thank everybody for coming down, the family, friends, people watching online, which you'll be able to see afterwards. I also want to thank the LAFA Board of Directors who authorized the purchase of this bench. I will tell you, despite the fact that the LAFA organization purchased the bench, I got multiple requests from just friends saying they wanted to buy it, they wanted to contribute, they wanted to donate. So LAFA did purchase this, but it was overwhelming how many people offered to do that. I also want to thank the Londonderry Times that came down to take pictures and cover the event. Thank you so much for doing that. And also want to thank everyone who didn't even know Mark, who came down to recognize a veteran and such an amazing person. I know she's very excited. And then just Tim organized purchasing of the bench, put it together, I believe, with his daughter. Is that correct? She did most of the work, okay. And then also Dave Wally, who helped get it down here, so we appreciate that. And folks who got the tents, and everyone else really who contributed to making this event a success, including Mother Nature for giving us a break on the rain. So I did ask if anyone else wanted to speak. I know it's a little awkward, so if you don't, that's okay, but I thought I'd pause for a moment and see if anyone did want to say anything. All right, that's perfectly okay. So with that, we will close the ceremony, and then again, I encourage you to talk to folks and come over and try out the bench, have a conversation. And with that, we'll close this up, and I again want to thank everybody for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.